This is pure nonsense.
I thought you'd feel that way, Gary. You were the only one that could have got to that blood.
Get away from me! Retreating!
Hello and welcome to the Last Movie Outpost celebration of 1982, a year when some truly amazing cinema was created. For this video, we're going to be talking about The Thing. Okay, so I'm going to say it up front, The Thing is almost the perfect movie. The direction, the storytelling, the acting, the music, the entire movie is just an amazing piece of work. The movie opens in Antarctica. A helicopter is chasing a lone sled dog across the frosty landscape. They head towards a research station and the helicopter crashes. A crazed man with a gun starts shooting at the dog, shouting in Norwegian. The guys at the research base have no choice but to shoot the man in self-defense, leaving the dog alive. They decide to head to the Norwegian base and find out what was going on. There they find a lot of charred bodies and something else, which they bring back to their own base. An autopsy on the something, it seems to have human organs, but it's definitely not human in structure. The dog in the meantime has been locked away with the other dogs in the American base, and soon we learn what's going on. The dog is some kind of life form and it seems to absorb and duplicate other life forms. The guys have no choice but to burn the thing. It turns out that the thing may have duplicated one or two of the guys, and the rest of the movie is about trying to figure out who is human and who is thing, and how to stop the thing from getting out of Antarctica and possibly taking over the world. The movie is about paranoia, it's about mistrust, it's about being scared of people that you know and think are your friends but may just be the enemy.
Basically, my feeling about the movie is that it's an exercise in human paranoia and what people go through to get to that place, and then when your paranoia turns rampant.
As the movie unfolds, you as an audience member have no idea who is human and who is thing. The Thing had been in development for a while, with the rights having been bought by Universal Studios. It was going to be a remake of the Howard Hawks movie Thing from Another World, originally made in 1951. John Carpenter was originally approached back in 1976, but he considered himself more of an independent filmmaker and initially said no. Then people like Tobe Hooper, Walter Hill, Sam Peckinpah, and even John Landis were considered to direct, but the project never got off the ground. After the success of Halloween, Carpenter was approached again, but he still wasn't keen on the idea of a remake of the original movie by Hawks. However, he was told to read the original story by John W. Campbell entitled Who Goes There, and then that changed his mind since he liked the idea of the creature's imitation of other beings. The movie famously stars Kurt Russell, who had worked with Carpenter before on the TV movie Elvis and Escape from New York. Before Russell was cast, actors like Christopher Walken, Jeff Bridges, Nick Nolte were approached, but either turned it down or couldn't because of filming schedules. The rest of the cast were filled and the movie started on production. As I said at the start, this is almost the perfect movie and there are no women in it. I'm just saying. Well, I say no women. There is an uncredited Adrienne Barbeau who was Carpenter's wife at the time, playing the voice of the computer. Production of the movie then started in 1981, filming on location in British Columbia and Alaska, as well as cooled down sound stages at Universal. The temperature outside at Universal Studios was about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, that's about 32 degrees centigrade. But in the studios it was reduced to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit, that's about -2 centigrade. The movie looks and feels cold, that's because it was cold. The other main focus of the film were the practical effects. The 1980s were a time of change. At the end of the 70s, computer consoles were coming out, and in the beginning of the 80s, almost every household had a games console of some description. Computers were starting to take over, and as the processors got more powerful, even Hollywood sat up and took notice. The first movie to use a scene with a computer-generated image was Young Sherlock Holmes in 1985. Then, more and more movies would use them. The Last Starfighter being the first major movie to use CGI for all of the spaceships. That wasn't until 1986, but Carpenter knew that computers were on their way in and maybe practical effects were on their way out. Carpenter wanted to use practical effects to the full and hired Ron Bottin to help. Bottin had worked with Carpenter before on The Fog. Carpenter had wanted to get away from the man-in-the-suit look of the original Thing from Another World and many other movies at the time. Bottin had the idea that the Thing could be more than one creature, but maybe several creatures in different stages of absorption. The use of practical effects meant that the movie is terrifying and timeless, and didn't have any bad CGI in it. There's an interesting scene where MacReady pours a drink into the computer he's playing chess with. This has been suggested this was an FU to computers.
Cheating bitch.
Carpenter is known as a very good musician, but he hired Ennio Morricone to write the movie's theme. Morricone had written some of the most amazing movie scores in cinema history, but the Thing is a lot more subtle and subdued. There's an old saying that less is more, and this showed the skill of Carpenter as a filmmaker, having little or no music in some of the scenes. It made them much more intense.
You got the keys? Get them from Gary. I want to get some stuff out of here.
It takes a lot of balls to hire someone like Morricone and then have a very subtle, subdued score. Interestingly, some of the unused music that was never used in The Thing by Morricone was later used by Quentin Tarantino in his 2015 movie Hateful Eight. Morricone had been nominated for a Razzie Award for the worst music score for The Thing. He won an Oscar for his score in The Hateful Eight. When The Thing came out in August of 1982, it pretty much bombed at the box office, grossing just under $20 million. The movie was made on a budget of $15 million, so that's not good. Many of the critics didn't like the movie at all. Quotes include, "Quintessential moron movie of the 80s. Instant junk. Wretched excess." Carpenter suffered. He was immediately fired from directing the Stephen King-based movie Firestarter, and his contract was bought out by Universal, who had planned to make a number of movies with him. It was only after a few years that the movie gained a following on VHS video and then on TV. There is an edited TV version, which cut out about 15 minutes from the movie and gave it a different ending, where the Thing had turned into a dog and run off, much like the opening. This version was disowned by Carpenter. Over the years, The Thing has claimed critical reassessment and been labelled a genre-defining movie and is now seen as a classic. Funny how some movies are not always appreciated at their time of release, and it also gives some credit to revisiting some movies that you may not have liked before. In 2011, the movie suffered a prequel, reboot, reimagining, but it was more of a cash grab. All the practical effects were replaced by CGI, and it was instantly forgettable. The CGI had amazing graphics, but they just felt soulless compared to the original. If you haven't seen the 2011 version, you should stay well away. The Thing is now a classic horror movie, with visuals that both impress and disgust at the same time, even today. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's really worth a revisit. Well, that's another of our movies celebrating 1982, with more on the way. What did you think of The Thing? What are other movies that you think we're going to cover? Please leave a comment below, like and subscribe to the channel, and visit us at thelastmovieoutpost.com for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about films.
Gotta be kidding.